He sold his only daughter to a rich, barren woman. What happened next made him regret it. He thought money would cover his shame. He thought giving her away to a rich, barren woman would solve his problems. But that was only the beginning. Sometimes life has a way of exposing the choices we wish we could hide. Sometimes the price of greed is far greater than anyone imagines. This is the story of a man who traded blood for wealth, only to discover that some regrets can never be undone. And today, it is being retold by me. Hello family, welcome back. Please do well to subscribe, and let's know where you are watching the story from in the comment section. They say a man can lose everything and still find a way to stand. But what happens when the last thing he has is the one thing he should never give away? Samuel sat on the edge of his bed, his face buried in his hands. The little room smelled of damp clothes and stale bread. A cracked chair leaned in the corner, and the table wobbled with every touch. Clara moved quietly across the floor, her bare feet soft against the wood. She set a chipped bowl of thin porridge in front of him and spoke gently. "Eat something, father." "I'm not hungry," Samuel muttered, staring at the wall. "You haven't eaten since yesterday." "I said I'm not hungry." His voice came out harsher than he intended. Clara flinched. Regret stabbed him, and he lowered his tone. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that." Clara gave a small smile, though her eyes showed her worry. "I'll eat it then. But you need your strength, father. You can't go on like this." She sat, lifted the spoon, and blew on the porridge before tasting it. Before she could say more, a loud knock thundered on the door. Samuel froze. Clara's eyes widened. Everyone in the neighborhood knew that knock. The landlord. Samuel dragged himself to the door. Mr. Hale, a heavy-set man with a permanent scowl, stood there. His eyes swept the room and lingered on Clara before settling back on Samuel. "It's the end of the month," Hale said flatly. "Where's my rent?" Samuel swallowed. "I just need more time." "No more time," Hale barked. "You've promised me for 3 months, either pay today or you and the girl are out tonight." Clara rushed forward. "Mr. Hale, please, just 1 more week. I'll work extra hours at the bakery and at the church. I'll bring it to you myself. Please." For a moment, Hale's eyes softened. He looked at Clara the way some men look at children they pity, but only for a moment. He shook his head. "It's not about you, child. It's about him. He's had too many chances." Samuel lowered his gaze, shame crawling over him. "You have until sundown," Hale said. Then he left, his heavy boots echoing on the street. The silence that followed was heavier than his words. Clara touched her father's arm. "We'll find a way. We always do. I'll talk to Pastor John. Maybe the church can help." "No," Samuel cut in, voice cracking. "I can't keep begging. I can't keep being the man people whisper about. I'm tired, Clara. I'm tired of failing." She studied him for a long moment. "We still have each other," she said quietly. "As long as we have that, we're not poor." Samuel turned away. Her words cut deeper than she knew. Later that afternoon, Samuel walked to the church. Pastor John was sweeping the steps. "Samuel," the pastor said, resting his broom, "you look troubled." "Troubled is my shadow these days," Samuel muttered. Pastor John gestured to the bench. "Sit. Tell me what weighs on you." Samuel sat heavily. "I can't keep up. Debts, rent, jobs that vanish. And Clara. She deserves more than this. She deserves everything I can't give." Pastor John's voice was firm but kind. "She deserves a father who keeps her safe. That is more than food or money." Samuel rubbed his face. "Safe? I can't even keep a roof over her head." The pastor leaned closer. "I've heard whispers. A man in a fine suit asking about Clara, asking too many questions. Don't let desperation blind you. Some choices look like ropes. But when you grab them, they turn into snakes." Samuel forced a laugh. "You and your stories." "Not stories," the pastor said. "Warnings." Samuel left with the pastor's words pressing on his chest. As he passed the market, a voice called, "Mr. Samuel." He turned. A man in a grey suit with polished shoes and a pleasant smile approached. "I'm Mr. Collins," the man said smoothly. "I represent Mrs. Evelyn Carter." Samuel stiffened. What does she want with me? Collins's smile never wavered. With you, nothing. With your daughter, everything. Mrs. Carter has no children of her own, and she longs for one. She has noticed Clara. Such a bright young girl should not be wasted in poverty. Samuel's jaw tightened. She's my daughter. And she could be Mrs. Carter's as well, Collins said, lowering his voice. Think of it. Clara in school, well-fed, clothed in silk. No more hunger, no more shame. And you, Mr. Samuel. Your debt erased. Enough money to start over. A new life. Samuel's throat tightened. She is not for sale. Not for sale, Collins corrected smoothly. Adoption. A chance for her to live the life you cannot give. Isn't that what every father wants? Samuel turned and walked away. But the words clung like burrs, scratching every step. That night, Clara returned from the bakery with a small bundle of coins. She placed them on the table. It's not much, she said, but it will buy us bread tomorrow. Samuel stared at the coins, then at Clara. Guilt burned in him. Clara, he said slowly, what if there was a way for you to have more? School, fine clothes, a real home. Clara frowned. What are you talking about? He hesitated, then forced the words out. Mrs. Carter, she's rich. She wants to adopt you. Clara blinked. Adopt me? As in, take me away? Samuel nodded, unable to meet her eyes. She can give you everything I can't. Clara's voice shook. And what about you? Do you want me to go? The room spun. He could lie. He could say no. He could beg her to stay. Instead, pride and shame twisted his tongue. I want what's best for you, he said. Clara stepped back, her hands trembling. So you would just give me away, like I'm a burden you can't carry? Don't say it like that, Samuel snapped, his voice too loud. It's not like that. Her eyes filled with tears. Did you take money? Samuel's silence was her answer. She drew in a sharp breath. Then you didn't give me away. You sold me. Clara! She turned, her voice breaking. I trusted you. The words hit harder than a fist. The knock came after dark. The carriage wheels rumbled outside. Mr. Collins entered with two women in crisp uniforms. Mrs. Carter herself waited at the gate, tall and cold beneath her veil. Clara stood stiff in her simple dress, ribbon in her hair. She looked at Samuel one last time. Do you want me to go? She asked. His throat locked. He could not say no. He could not say yes. He nodded. Her eyes hardened. Then I will go. She walked out on her own, refusing the hand offered to her. At the gate, she stopped. Goodbye, father, she said. Her voice was steady now, almost too steady. Spend the money wisely. Samuel reached out. Clara, please. But the carriage door closed with a heavy thud and the wheels rolled away. Samuel stood in the street long after the carriage disappeared, the sound of her voice echoing in his ears. That was the night Samuel traded blood for wealth. He thought he had bought peace. He thought he had bought a future. But all he had really bought was regret. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give future to children and women abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing to hitting the subscribe button and turning on your notification bell. Also let us know in the comments where you are watching us from and how this story hit home for you. They say a golden cage is still a cage, and Clara learned that truth the very night she stepped into Mrs. Carter's mansion. From the outside, the estate was breathtaking. Marble steps, shining lamps, guards in pressed uniforms, gardens trimmed like they had been cut with rulers. Inside, the air smelled of polished wood and fresh flowers. Servants bowed, doors opened, and silk curtains floated in the breeze. Clara, still in her plain dress with the ribbon in her hair, stood frozen. She had never seen such luxury. For one heartbeat, she thought maybe Just maybe, her father had been right. Maybe he had truly given her a better life. But then, Mrs. Carter's voice cut through the silence. "Take her upstairs," she commanded. "She'll have the room at the end of the east wing, and burn that dress." Clara's head snapped toward her. "Burn it? It's the only one I have." Mrs. Carter's lips curved in a tight smile. "Exactly. You are mine now, Clara. You will dress as I say, eat as I say, speak as I say. That little ribbon and that dress, those belong to another life. That life is gone." Clara's throat tightened. "And my father?" Mrs. Carter leaned close, her perfume sharp and cold. "Your father sold you. Do not forget that. You belong to me." The words pierced her heart and sank deep. Days became weeks. On the outside, Clara looked like a young lady blessed beyond measure. She wore silk gowns, ate roasted meats and cakes she couldn't name, and slept in a bed so soft she sank into it like a cloud. But the softness smothered her. Every morning began with orders barked by Mrs. Carter. "Sit straight, Clara. Don't slouch like a servant. Smile when you are spoken to. And stop looking out of windows. You're not longing for anything. You have all you'll ever need." Every evening ended with criticism. "Why do you walk so heavily? Why do you always look sad? I gave you everything, Clara, yet you behave like a beggar's child. You owe me gratitude." When Clara tried to laugh with the maids, Mrs. Carter dragged her away and hissed in her ear, "Do not lower yourself. You are not one of them. You are mine, and you will act like it." Clara cried into her pillow many nights, but she was not broken. She would not let Mrs. Carter's voice erase her own. One evening, after Mrs. Carter left her room, Clara pulled out a scrap of paper and an old pencil she had begged from a kind servant. She began to write. "Father, please come for me. This is not the life you promised. She is cruel. She reminds me every day that you gave me away. If you love me, even a little, please don't leave me here." She folded the letter and pressed it into the hand of Sarah, the young kitchen maid who sometimes smuggled food to her when she was punished. "Please," Clara whispered, "find a way to deliver this." Sarah hesitated. "If she discovers I helped you, I'll take the blame," Clara begged. "Please, I have no one else." Sarah finally nodded, slipping the letter into her apron. Weeks later, Samuel unfolded that very letter. His hands did not tremble. He read the words slowly, leaned back in his chair, and exhaled. "Dramatic," he muttered to himself. "The girl exaggerates. She has food, clothes, a roof. What more does she want?" He tossed the letter onto the table and glanced at the bag of coins in the corner. That was what mattered. Stability, respect, a second chance. "She'll learn to adjust," he told himself. "She has to. Better she cry in silk than laugh in rags." When more letters came, he read them with the same cold eye. "She is cruel. She calls me property. Please, Father, just visit me." Samuel smirked bitterly. "Property?" he scoffed. "At least she's property of someone who can feed her. She should be thanking me." He folded each letter neatly, placed them in a box, and closed the lid. His decision was made. The gold in his hands outweighed the ink on the paper. Years passed. Clara grew from a girl into a young woman. She was taller now, her voice steadier, but her eyes still carried quiet sadness. Mrs. Carter finally allowed her to attend school, not out of kindness, but out of vanity. "People must see I have a cultured daughter," she said at a luncheon. "One who brings honor to my name." At school, Clara stood apart. Her classmates came from wealthy families, children who carried their privilege like a second skin. They laughed about their vacations, their silk gowns, their servants who polished their shoes. Clara listened quietly, her books hugged to her chest. One afternoon, a girl named Margaret sneered as Clara walked past. "Your dress looks borrowed. Did your mother forget to buy you a new one?" Clara stopped, her face hot. "She's not my mother." Margaret tilted her head, enjoying the attention. "Then who is she? Everyone says Mrs. Carter bought you. Is it true?" The other girls giggled. Clara said nothing, but the laughter stung more than a slap. That night, when Mrs. Carter saw her pale face, she smirked. "You'll get used to it," she said. "Let them talk. You are mine, Clara. That is what matters." Clara lifted her chin. For the first time she answered back. "It doesn't matter. Nothing you say will make me forget where I came from." The room went cold. Mrs. Carter's hand shot out, striking her cheek. "Ungrateful child. I saved you from poverty, from shame, from your useless father. Without me, you would be nothing." Clara's cheek burned, but her voice did not shake. "Maybe I would have been nothing, but at least I would have been free." Mrs. Carter's eyes narrowed. "Freedom is an illusion. You are mine until I say otherwise. Do you understand me?" Clara's heart pounded, but she didn't back down. "You'll never own me." Mrs. Carter slapped her again and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. Clara sat on her bed, pressing a hand to her cheek. She pulled out another scrap of paper and wrote by candlelight. "Father, it's been years. I don't know why you haven't come. Maybe you never will. But I need you to know I haven't given up. One day I'll walk out of here on my own. And when I do, I will never look back." Samuel read that letter too. He shook his head and muttered, "She's stubborn, just like her mother was. Let her dream. The world will teach her reality." He folded it carefully, placed it in the same box, and poured himself another drink. Meanwhile, Clara endured. She poured her energy into her studies. While others memorized enough to pass, Clara memorized to understand. She read late into the night, her candle burning low, her fingers smudged with ink. Not to please Mrs. Carter, not to earn Samuel's approval, but to build a life no one could ever take away. She worked harder than anyone, rose to the top of her class, and when she received her first scholarship letter, she hid it under her pillow like a sacred treasure. When Mrs. Carter heard the news, she smiled coldly. "Good. You'll bring honor to my name after all. Remember, Clara, everything you are belongs to me." Clara looked her in the eye and spoke with calm certainty. "Everything I am belongs to me. You can try to own me, but you never will." Mrs. Carter raised her hand again, but this time Clara didn't flinch. She had learned something far stronger than silk and wealth: resilience. They say the strongest steel is forged in fire. Clara was still in the fire, but she was no longer afraid of the flames. And though Samuel still read her letters in silence, he felt nothing but cold justification. She no longer wrote hoping to be saved. She wrote to remind herself of who she was, someone who would not break. The cage was golden, yes, but Clara was already learning how to find the key. They say cursed money always finds its way back to the grave it came from. Samuel learned that lesson slowly, painfully, until the gold he had clung to turned to dust in his hand. When they left, Samuel sat in silence, sweat beading his forehead. For the first time, fear gnawed at the edges of his pride. And still, he blamed Clara. If she hadn't been so ungrateful, he muttered one night, staring into his empty cup. Maybe this curse wouldn't have followed me. She should have accepted her new life, made things easier. But no, she had to resist, to complain, to write those pitiful letters. She's the reason this money turned bitter. He said it aloud enough times that he almost believed it. Meanwhile, in the mansion, Clara's own life was changing. Mrs. Carter's cruelty hadn't softened with time. She still reminded Clara daily, "You owe me everything. Don't forget, your father didn't want you." She mocked her grades, her friends, even her clothes, as if every success Clara achieved was still stamped with Mrs. Carter's name. But Clara had long stopped hoping for kindness from her. She had learned to endure, to focus on the only thing she could control: her effort. At school, she became known not for wealth or beauty, but for determination. "She studies all night," one classmate whispered. "I saw her asleep at her desk when the teacher walked in." "She works weekends too," another said. "Tutors children, cleans classrooms. anything to earn a little money. When others gave up on difficult problems, Clara pressed on until she found the answer. When teachers praised her, Mrs. Carter sneered at home. "You think being top of your class makes you important. You're nothing without my name. Without me, you wouldn't even be in that school." Clara didn't argue anymore. She simply nodded and walked away. Deep inside, she told herself, "My success belongs to me. She can claim it all she wants, but she didn't give me this fire. Pain did. Hardship did. I did." Her letters to Samuel had changed too. She no longer begged him to save her. She no longer asked for his presence. Instead, she wrote them like promises to herself. "Father, I don't expect you to come anymore. I've stopped waiting. But I want you to know, one day you'll see me stand on my own, without your gold, without her wealth. And when that day comes, you will know you sold the wrong person." Samuel read those words with a cold snort. "Bold girl," he muttered. "Still stubborn. But words won't feed her. She'll come to understand in time that comfort matters more than pride." He tossed the letter into the box with the rest, poured himself another drink and tried to forget it. But forgetting became harder. His money slipped away like water through a sieve. The creditors returned again and again, each time with sharper threats. The taverns no longer welcomed him with smiles. They wanted payment. The landlord who once bowed to him now scowled when he saw him. Neighbors whispered louder. "It's cursed," they said. "He traded his own child for that money. Did you think the earth would bless him? Did you think God would let him prosper?" When Samuel walked down the street, children pointed and laughed. Old women shook their heads. Some spat on the ground as he passed. Still he muttered, "Let them talk. I'll rise again. I always do." But inside he knew he was falling. Clara, on the other hand, was climbing. She graduated with honors, the scholarship she had hidden under her pillow carrying her to college. She worked odd jobs, cleaning houses, tutoring younger students, selling bread on weekends. Every coin she earned was hers. Every success belonged to her. The scars of Mrs. Carter's cruelty lingered, but they became fuel. Each insult reminded her why she had to fight harder. Each slap taught her she could withstand pain without bending. On graduation day, she stood in her cap and gown, her name called first among the honors list. The applause rang in her ears like freedom bells. Mrs. Carter sat stiff in the audience, clapping because people expected her to, her face carved in stone. Clara didn't even look her way. She looked forward, her eyes shining with determination. That evening, she returned home and placed her certificate on her desk. Mrs. Carter entered, arms folded. "So, you've achieved something," she said dryly. "Remember who paid for your uniforms, who kept you fed while you studied. You owe this to me." Clara turned, her voice calm and steady. "I owe you nothing. You tried to break me, and you failed. This belongs to me." Mrs. Carter's hand twitched, but Clara did not flinch. She had outgrown fear. Meanwhile, Samuel's house grew emptier. His cupboards were bare. His coat was torn again. The bag of coins that once seemed endless was now a memory. He sat in the dark most nights, listening to the echoes of his own choices. Still, pride clung to him like a shadow. He refused to admit he had been wrong. He refused to think of Clara as anything but ungrateful. "Let her have her little victories," he muttered. "She wouldn't have survived without what I did for her. She'll see one day." But in truth, it was Samuel who had nothing left to see. His wealth, built on the sacrifice of his daughter, had crumbled to dust. His neighbors mocked him, creditors circled him, and whispers of his betrayal followed him wherever he went. And as he fell deeper into ruin, Clara rose higher, building a life with her own hands, her own sweat, her own resilience. One was collapsing into ashes. The other was climbing into light. They say time humbles everyone. It didn't make Samuel kind. It only made him empty. He woke most mornings to a ceiling stained with leaks and a floor that bent under his weight. The bag of coins was long gone. The friends who cheered him in the tavern had vanished. Debt had returned with sharper teeth. One afternoon, creditors knocked. "You owe, Samuel," one said flatly. "Next week. Don't make us come again." They left him with the quiet he hated. In the corner sat a wooden box filled with Clara's letters, yellowed with age. He hadn't opened it in months. Pride kept the lid closed. News of Clara came by chance. In the market, he overheard, "Clara Carter, the young woman who tutors children, gives talks at the library. Hard worker, that one. Lives on Oak Street now. Doing well." Samuel froze. Pride, anger, and a strange pull twisted in his chest. So she had made something of herself. Without him, without thanks. That evening he walked to Oak Street. He didn't knock. He stood across the road, watching the lights from her house spill onto the steps. Laughter drifted through the window. For 3 nights he returned. On the 4th, hunger and desperation pushed him through the gate. The door opened to Clara. She was taller, steadier, her eyes sharp and calm. For a moment they only stared. "Clara," he said. "Samuel," she answered. "I'm your father," he said quickly, as if the word could still bind them. "You sold that title," she replied. "What do you want?" He had prepared speeches, excuses, promises. They crumbled on his tongue. "I came to talk. Life has been hard. The land failed. The merchants cheated me. Men came for their money. I have nothing. I thought maybe—" He hesitated. "Maybe we could start again. A place in your life. A little help." Clara didn't move. "You're not asking for forgiveness. You're asking for access. They're not the same." "I'm your father," he repeated, weaker this time. "You were. Then you traded me for gold. You nodded when I asked if you wanted me to go. That was the day you ended it." He flinched. "I read every letter," he said quickly. "I kept them safe." "You didn't keep me safe," she replied. His voice cracked. "I regret it, Clara. All of it." Her gaze didn't soften. "You regret losing what you bought with it, not losing me." He reached out a trembling hand. "Please, one meal, one night. Let me in." Clara shook her head. "I wanted a father when I was a girl. That time has passed. I won't rewrite my life so you can feel better about yours." His hand dropped. The silence between them was heavier than any words. "So that's it?" he whispered. "You shut me out." "I set a boundary," she said. "I have peace now. You are not part of it." Bitterness rose in his voice. "Not even a coin, after all your success." "You don't need my coins. You need the work it takes to earn them. Start there."
He laughed once, hollow. "You sound like a sermon." "I sound like someone who survived you," she said quietly. "Take care of yourself, Samuel, but not here." She turned and went inside. The door shut with a final sound that echoed in his chest. Samuel stood at the gate long after. He had wanted father. She gave him his name, and it weighed heavier than any curse. He returned to his room and finally opened the box of letters. He read them all, pleas, cries, hopes, words he had once dismissed as exaggerations. They cut deeper now than any creditor's threat. When he finished, he stacked them, tied them with the ribbon Clara once wore, and placed them back in the box. He understood then what he had never allowed himself to face. Some doors, once closed, never open again. He had traded blood for wealth. The wealth had vanished. The blood had hardened into a wall he could not cross. And in that wall he heard the only truth left to him. Betrayal is never paid once. It is paid forever.
Greed can buy temporary comfort, but it cannot buy back trust. Betrayal may bring wealth, but it leaves a debt the heart cannot repay. Samuel lost his daughter the day he sold her. Clara, despite her pain, rose above them all, not because of what she was given, but because of what she refused to let break her.